So now we know how the trigger works. What is the trigger framework? What is the best practice that you have to write trigger? Like, there'll be a trigger and the trigger handler. That's the best practice in Salesforce. Now, there is a confusion that always comes. I mean, when I started writing code, I also got the same kind of confusion, right? And this is something that you have to be very much crystal clear from the day one when you write Apex. Okay, this is the story. So trigger is a piece of code which will be executed whenever a record gets created, updated, or deleted. So what we have done to test that trigger, we actually have gone to this record and then we cloned it, right? And the moment I clone, it fired the trigger and I got the data, this particular record, whatever I have cloned and inserted, right? All these values like first name, last name, email, every single thing came into the trigger.new. Correct? Trigger.new is actually which is holding every single data. And if you are updating, suppose this is a existing record and you are just going to update this, and you just update the phone number from nothing to 123 and then save. So trigger.old will have all the old value, correct, including whatever the old company. What do you mean by old? Old means before you changed it, like the old value of phone was null, the new value of phone is 123. So trigger.old will hold all the old values and trigger.new will hold whatever new values that you are entering. So if you put mobile number as blank, trigger.old also will be blank, trigger.new also will be blank. Correct? So this is how it works. But most of the time when you write a trigger, your trigger is not bulkified. You get it? Your trigger is not bulkified. It means you as a developer, you'll always think that your record will be inserted from the user interface one by one. But that's not the case every time. There would be a situation when your trigger will be invoked definitely whenever the record is getting inserted or updated, but there will be bulk data insert. There will be bulk data update. So we have seen this in, we have done this workbench, right? How to insert a lot of record at a time with an Excel file or CSV file, correct? So I actually have created one CSV file, which name is lead info. Okay. Let me just quickly open up that lead info. So this is the lead info page, a CSV file I have created. Make sure this is CSV, okay? This is not Excel. The column name is last name and company, and first record last name is 1, company is 1. I have chosen only last name and company as the column name. Why? Because these are the only two mandatory fields to create data inside lead object, okay? And the record name is 123, company name is also 123. Make sense? So what I'm trying to show you is this. I will create one record and I will try to print the value of that data, and then I will insert multiple records and I'll show you what will be the value of trigger.new. You get it? So in order to make that happen, I will just go and do a little change here. I want my code, whatever code that I'm going to write to print that trigger.new, right? I want to run that code only when the before insert happen. How can we do it? We have seen this in the previous video, right? That I can write that before if trigger.isBefore and if trigger.isInsert here. Instead of writing that here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and type the same code over here. So I'll type if trigger dot, what will be the dot? No. So I will type here if, and check this out. I am passing trigger.isBefore to this variable, correct? And I am passing the trigger.isInsert to this variable. So how do I check? How do I check if the before insert is happening? I will just check if this variable, how many is equal to 2, right? Because I'm checking here is true. And how can I give and? Double and, right? This variable is equals to true. What does it mean then? It means the before insert is happening. If that is the case, then I will run a for loop. Understand this, trigger.new trigger.new is this variable which I am passing to this particular variable called new leads. Trigger.new is nothing but a list of lead. The trigger is running on top of lead object. So trigger.new is nothing but list of lead. List is important. Why list? Because list can hold multiple values. So theoretically, understand this situation here. Whenever you insert one single record through this user interface, like if you click on save, right, you are just inserting. I'll just clone here and click on save. So you're inserting one record. Because it is a list, it can hold that particular record in this new leads variable. And the moment you go and insert 5,000 records, this variable, it is because a list, it will hold all your 5,000 data. You get it? So trigger.new is a list. If you are inserting a record one by one through the user interface, this trigger.new will hold only one record. If you are inserting bulk data through the workbench, through your Excel file or CSV file, this will hold all your data that you have in the Excel file. I just wanted to show you that thing only, okay? Now, how do you know? My question to you is this, right? How do you go and print that value? See, lists are multiple indexes, and the list first index start with 0, right? How do you go and print everything that you have in each and every index? Is where you have to write a for loop. Without a for loop, you cannot study, you cannot read what is there inside your list. So you have to write a for loop to read the data. I'm writing here one for loop. I'm typing this code here. I am pretty much sure that you are clear with this for loop thing, which we have already discussed in the previous video. If not, please go through the previous video again. Type the code. Typing the code is ultimate important. If you don't type the code and see the output, this would be like very difficult for you. Okay, so I'm just going to go and print the L. What will be there in L, by the way? So understand this. Whenever you insert one record through the UI, this will have that record data, and for loop will run how many times? Only once. And the L will have that record value. And then when you insert 10 records with the help of workbench, then how many times the for loop will run? 10 times. And each time for loop will run and it will print that particular data, whatever you have in that particular index. Make sense? I'll save this code. Now I'm going to go and clear the logs. My log has been cleared. I will just remove this system.debug. That's not necessary for me. Okay. So this is my code, correct? If I save this code and I will go and create a new record here. I'll just clone the existing one. Save it. Saved, right? I will go here and double click on the first log. So the first log is for, let me see if the first log is for before insert. See, it is for before insert. And I got the lead printed only once. Like only one record has been inserted, right? Only one record has been inserted and this is printing the data. Any reason why the ID is null? You see this ID is null, right? Line number 9L, when I'm printing, the ID is null. What is the reason? The reason is I'm checking here before insert, and before insert means what? The record has not been inserted yet and it is printing the data. So in the before insert, because the record has not been inserted in the lead object, the ID is null. If I print here, if I execute this for loop in after insert, then the ID will be there. Okay, so this thing is clear, right? Why it is printing only once. Now I have this Excel file ready, right? This CSV file. I would request you to create the same CSV. Make sure when you save it, you put it .csv, okay? And have these two column, like put 1, 2, 3. Make sure your duplicate is off, okay? I just have duplicate rule activated for the lead object. I have deactivated the lead because I have to test it multiple times, right? My duplicate rule is being deactivated. I'm going to go to workbench because I have tested this already. I'm going to show you one more time here. And let me just click on insert. So I clicked on insert, lead has been selected. Click on form, browse the file. And my file is, let me just quickly open the file. That's the file, lead info. Okay. Now whenever I click on next, I have only 2 columns in the Excel file, so it is already mapped. Click on map fields and then click on confirm insert. Now 3 record has been inserted. Check this out. If I now go here and double click on the debug log, see the log now. Please understand this log this time, okay? See, the log is actually printing L, L and L. 3 times the record has been printing. Do you see here? First time the last name is 1. You see this? Then second record the last name is 2. Then third record the last name is 3. Why this L is getting printed thrice is what you need to understand deeply here. The reason is this. Whenever the record, let's say you are inserting 3 record, all these 3 record trigger will fire once. All these 3 record will be held in this trigger.new variable, which is nothing but this variable. Now this variable has total 3 data, 3 indexes. Each index hold 1 data. It is coming here in the for loop. For loop is running first time the first record, which is 1, is being printed. For loop is running second time, the second record, which is 2, is been printed. For loop is running third time, the third record, which is nothing but 3, is been printed. So the point here is very clear. The point is this: if you insert 1 record from the UI, your trigger.new will have that particular record. If you insert 5000 record through the data loader or workbench, your trigger.new trigger will fire only once. It's not like 5000 times the trigger will fire, right? Trigger will fire once and your trigger.new will have all 5000 records. And because it is having all 5000 records, this for loop will run 5000 times. This is something you have to be very much clear in order to make the trigger bulkified. Okay, so you always have to think that the record will be inserted through the data loader, and you have to make sure your code is been bulkified enough. We will see the bulkification out in the next code, right? Bulkification means your code should be able to handle the data if it is being inserted manually one by one, or if it is being inserted through the data loader bulk. Correct? So your data, your code should be able to handle both kind of a data. Correct? So you always have to think that my record will be inserted definitely through the data loader, and that's how you have to build your code. Never ever think that your Apex trigger will run only when you're inserting a record from the UI one by one. Always think that your record will be inserted through the data loader, and based on that you have to build your code, so that your code is been bulkified and it should be able to handle one data or multiple data. Alright, so we're going to talk about this bulkification in more detail in the next few set of videos. That's it for this video. See you in the next video.